starting the
Actually,
stream.
you know what? Let me bring it closer like this and see how my audio sounds. Do I sound better? Hello, testing 1 2 3
Yeah, I just
6
need to
9
turn it
420.
down on the stream a little bit.
Okay, yeah, because with this one it's like a podcast, so I'd rather have better, higher quality audio.
Yeah, shout out to our audio sponsor who will have better mics very soon.
Hopefully. Are you streaming?
Yeah, we are streaming.
Well, can we shout them out if they haven't sent us the mics yet? Is that?
No.
I feel like that's selling ourselves short.
It is.
We should get those mics first.
Yeah, that's why I just shouted out the audio sponsor, whoever it is.
Dude, there's quite a large amount of people. Let me just say this for anybody that's giving this a gander in, when it's a video, or maybe the 17 of you that are watching right now. Let me tell you, the amount of emails you get from people asking to sponsor your channel that are just like the sketchiest motherfucking website and just completely broken English, which is fine. I mean, not everybody has like perfect English. That's no problem. But when you're like, hey, I want all of your viewers to download this thing, it's like, it kind of helps me not think it's a virus if you're like,
if you actually send us a website link instead of
that
just
works.
being like,
yeah, that's a start.
Hey,
that's
want
a
to
start.
sponsor channel 5 pre-roll, thank you. It's like, what are you sponsoring us with?
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Where are these people getting money that they can sponsor YouTube channels?
From the mafia.
I mean, first world problems, right? But still, it's like, it's kind of crazy how little effort seems to go into these emails.
Yeah.
Is there a secret S grade on Dota buff, or is A+ the limit? I actually don't know what you're referring to. I'm a big Dota buff user, but I guess I'm not up to snuff.
Yeah, I don't know
on that. How your games been going, Donnie?
They've been pretty good. I've been winning a lot with my Zeus support and my Treant support, and I recently theory crafted that Phoenix is probably extremely strong right now. And
I think you're probably right. About Phoenix.
You just have to ban Legion Commander every game because you don't want to play or lane against that.
Oh, Legion 5? Or sorry, Phoenix 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's honestly probably a good 5. It's one of those 5s like Coddle that can probably take levels and like push lanes, but
yep.
That's honestly fine for 5s these days. It's arguably preferable that supports are like pushing lanes anyway, because then the stronger heroes aren't showing, and then they're not risking dying, and also they're off the map more.
Exactly.
Which is cool.
Yeah, that's
is
kind
it
of
good
like
to skip school to grind MMR. I'm so sorry, Donnie. This was an important question.
That's fine.
Yes. The answer is yes. MMR is all that matters.
Does Jug 5 works? Unlikely. I don't know. I'm sure there's a couple other heroes that are probably less suited for 5 than Jug, but there aren't many.
Do you remember wasn't there like a Chinese team that was picking a bit of Jug 5 for a while?
I know it's like happened before, but I can't imagine.
I think it's happened, yeah.
Good.
yeah. I mean, I guess Spin does a good amount of damage, but Healing Ward is not a great enough like support ability, and it does really suck if you have a support that just has one ability the crit, which is kind of wasted on a support. It doesn't really offer much in the way of supporting something like a Chaos Knight, for example. At least the crit gives you regen, which like makes you a better laner, whereas the crit on Jug is like strictly damage.
So. Exactly. That's the main thing, is like anything that requires items to scale, any ability that requires items to scale means you probably can't be a 5, like realistically, right? Because some games you're gonna be 30 minutes in with brown boots and a stick and a bunch of wards.
Yeah, it's a rough life for 5s out there, but I don't know. I mean, I guess the definition of roles do change over time, and we'll see. Maybe 5 will be a different thing.
Yeah, with the next patch. The new patch. Who knows?
Do you want to get started, by the way?
Yeah, actually, one last thought before we get into it is I was listening to the Suns Fan and Cinderin podcast today, actually, and they were talking about how the player base has declined quite a bit, and how it's just kind of natural when there's no patch for 3 months after TI. And Cinderin was mentioning how he still thinks that there's like a lot of stuff that you can do in the patch that people are still not doing. And that's,
Cool.
I mean, it's very true, just because basically how Dota works is people decide that heroes are strong, and then those heroes are strong until people decide that, oh wait, these other heroes naturally counter these heroes, and then those heroes become strong. Like Wraith King was super strong for a while, then he was not strong because he was nerfed a bunch, but then people were picking
Then he
Void.
became strong again, yeah.
Well, people were picking Void, so they're like, oh, okay, well, Wraith King's like the best hero against Void from a counter standpoint, because Chronosphere doesn't do anything to him. So now Wraith King's like a top tier carry again, even though he's significantly nerfed from where he was like 6 months ago. So it's really just about like this cyclical nature of like this hero becomes strong, so then this hero counters it, so it gets picked a lot, and then people pick that hero to counter that one. Like,
yeah. Tournaments definitely change things too, because people copy what the pros are doing, and then like the meta changes. I guess one of the criticisms is just that the meta hasn't changed enough. Like the tournaments are kind of people picking relatively the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the time, like TI will happen, and then patches will come out, and then the pros will discover what's like the counter to the meta that people are still picking, and then in the tournaments afterwards, you'll see like the difference. But it's been slower. And I also think that over like a longer period of time, people want to see a bigger change rather than just like the meta shifting. People want to see like Roshan in a different place. Right. They want to see like the meta being like a comeback meta instead of an early game meta, or you want it to be like a mid game fighting meta instead of like a split pushing meta. You know, you need the game to change to be something that's like almost completely different.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of the fact like it could change. It could just continue to cycle around as heroes become popular to counter other heroes and so on and so forth. But realistically speaking, most people are just very resistant to that sort of experimentation and change. And so you kind of just need a big patch to force people to look at something else. Like that's usually what happens.
Right. I'm a pretty firm believer that the biggest reason that, well, the two biggest reasons that we have this happening with the player base is like the patch is taking longer than normal after TI.
Yep.
And then matchmaking.
Yep.
Like that's it in my opinion. I've had quite a few people messaging, like, you know, people that I've coached. They're like, I don't play Dota, I'm waiting for the patch. And because they're having these like 5-minute long matchmaking queues, they're, you know, trying to do fast queue, and they're getting hard carry, and they can't play hard carry, but they just keep getting it. It's like either you do this like really long slow queue, or you do this fast queue, and then you get a role that you're not good at. So like either way, the experience isn't really great, and something needs to change there. I like that they're constantly trying stuff. I think that's good. I'm glad that Valve is making moves as opposed to doing like literally nothing. Because for a long time with matchmaking, we saw nothing change.
Fast queue is whack though.
It is completely whack.
Super whack. The only thing that I liked about it was that when it first came out, the very first day, there were several games in a row that were found very quickly by super high MMR players, where it was literally like rank 1, 5, like 15 and 50 all on the same team versus rank 2, 6, 12 and 30 on the other team. And I was like, damn, that is a high quality game of Dota that's being played right now, and that was not possible before. It was like forcing these super high level people into like these high level games, but since then I feel like it's gotten worse.
Yeah, I don't know what changed, but from what I've seen, it's basically you fast queue, and you're just against a bunch of divines as like you can be like a 5 stack of all top 100s. You'll be against like one top 100 and like divines. So the game is not that high. It's not really high quality because they're trying to queue you fast. So it's just like saying,
right,
basically putting it to like the old system where the roles were considered. And or you're on this new system where you queue for 45 minutes and then you're playing a role that you don't understand. And like I said, it's like to me, it seems like it's the worst of both worlds. Yeah. Where it's like you have the new system, which sucks because you're playing a role that you don't like, and the queue is really slow, or it's the old system and your queue is really fast, but the games are imbalanced. So it's like both sides are just awful.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I really don't know what they were trying to do with the fast queue. It just like it doesn't really make any sense. It basically reverts everything that I've done for the last like 3 months. The way
that I've been describing it is that, and this is no disrespect to Valve, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the company. I love what they do. I love that they're different and that we don't have to worry about them like blizzarding or anything like that. However, with that being said, they basically put a Band-Aid on matchmaking. Okay, now that's fucking up the analogy. So it's like breaking your arm, and then you put a band-aid on it, and then the band-aid breaks, and then you duct tape it, and then the duct tape breaks, so you just glue it, and then you staple it, and it's just like all of these solutions to just like you shouldn't have band-aided it in the first place.
Because it's
And
a broken
I don't
arm,
blame you.
not a cut.
Exactly. I don't blame you for. I don't blame you for band-aiding in the first place because you're trying to do something. It's better to do that than to do nothing at all. But with that being said, it's getting to the point where they're stapling a fucking glue gun broken arm, and it just needs to stop. They need to go back to square one and go from there, I think.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's hop into the questions. And answering unknown, do we consider ourselves good coaches when it comes to EU Dota as well? I don't see why that would make any difference. A lot of our students are European players, so I have almost exclusively, yeah.
I have almost no American or like North American students.
Yep.
It's mostly honestly a lot of Australians, a lot of Europeans, a lot of Southeast Asians.
Yep.
That want coaching.
Yep.
There's the occasional like American, like North American, and they all happen to be like software developers. They're usually software developers.
Yeah, because they're the only ones humble enough to actually look for coaching. Most North American players are like, I guess so. I know what's up.
Yeah, like I don't need coaching. Okay, let's hop into it. Or do we already hop into it? Are we already knee deep?
I think we're pretty knee deep already.
Okay, all right. Welcome, guys, to Alchemy Answers 53. And our first question from our patron, Average Peen, is what are good Zeus position 4 builds? Do I always rush Ags? What about Arcane, Aether, Tranquils? I asked last week, but it got overlooked. We'll blame Donnie on that one. I've been having trouble being underleveled as a position 4, no matter who I play. So I'm super ahead during the lane. The reason I feel like I should give my offlaner solo XP, so I'll try to leave. But if I don't get a bank kill, then I'm just level 4 at 10 minutes. He said level 4 at level 10, which is pretty funny, but I fucked up. Level 4 at 10 minutes. Okay, so first question, Zeus pause 4. I do play a bit of Zeus pause 4, and I play a bit of Zeus pause 3, and I choose between these builds based on the following logic. Basically, like, if I'm in a game and I can be greedy and I don't need any other items to contribute to my team, as in either I don't need to contribute at all and we're already going to win the early game, or I don't need the items to contribute to my team because I can fight without them and I don't think anybody's going to kill me. I don't need the range from the Ether land. Then I'll skip the Ether. Won't go for the Tranquils. I'll go straight Ags. That's like the greedy build, basically. You just go for the ridiculous late game item.
Yep.
Or alternatively, if you think that that's like the most important power spike, you can't afford to go for those other things. That's also acceptable. Otherwise, I would say you usually want to, like in most games with Zeus, I would say you probably are going to need some bridge item. If you're not a pause 5, you're probably going to need some bridge item to be useful before the eggs. That's how I decide. Like if I can skip Tranquil Boots, I will. If I can skip Ether Lens, I will. Like I want to skip these items, but it's more so what I need in the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the hero definitely suffers without some sort of mana item. I mean, you can get by on clarities, but you kind of need some passive mana, either from Ether Lens or
that's
Yules
a big hole in your pocket
right
there.
Like that. Yeah. So whether it's Soul Ring because you're feeling extra greedy, whether it's Aether Lens because you can like take advantage of their cast range and the mana regeneration, or if it's Yules because maybe it's just a really good Yules game and that kind of gives you the same benefit plus a little bit of defensive capabilities, then I think those are all good. But definitely as a 4 or a 3, you want to get that Ags as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I go for whatever items it takes to keep me alive, and then I go for Ags.
I also think that Boots of Travel on that hero is insane.
Oh, I agree.
So good because you have the EXP talent. Basically, any hero that has an EXP talent or a cooldown reduction ability or talent should get bots, in my opinion, because it just allows you to get so much extra farm and so much extra experience. Like if you get bots in Zeus, you instantly get to level 25. My reasoning
on it is like it's interesting because I think we actually have very different reasoning. I like your reasoning. I think that sounds very logical. This is just Dota. So everybody has these different ideas on why things are good. But my opinion on that is like I think the bots on Zeus are really good because any hero that can clear waves safely, I think is really good with bots because they can just go to like really dangerous areas and just push out the wave and annoy the enemy team like that. Like you have Batrider, I think bots are really great on Leshrac, Pugna, like all of these heroes can clear waves. And then also all of these heroes have like really high mana costs. So if you get bots, then you don't need to get like a Bloodstone or any mana item or something like that because you're constantly in the fountain getting fountain regen. So you can just go as Zeus and like dump out all of your mana on something and then just TP home and then bot somewhere else. And all of a sudden you full mana again. It like really reduces the amount of downtime in the game. But yeah, no, I like your reasoning too, Donnie. I think that's another factor for sure. Is the hero good? Is the hero good with levels? Is it good to be greedy on that hero? Because I actually have heard, I don't know, it might have been God Z who said that, but I have heard another person basically use your logic, and I hadn't really thought about that before. It was more so the other things that I mentioned.
Like I've been thinking a lot about Dazzle as like a 3 for that reason, because
I think Dazzle would be good with that as well.
Because you have the cooldown reduction and an EXP talent, and you also can clear waves instantly with your shadow wave. So you just like you show up, you clear a wave, you're back in the fountain, you clear another wave.
The Q clears waves.
Yeah, everything about Dazzle clears waves actually.
Yeah.
Other than the grave. So
yeah, no, that sounds really good. Okay, so let me see. Moving on. Chai says, "What are your telltale signs that an enemy player is good?" That's a good question. That's an interesting question. I'm gonna think about it, Donnie. Maybe you have an immediate answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it kind of depends because people can be good at different things, right? You know, not everybody is a mechanical god, but that's probably the easiest one is if you're just clearly being outmaneuvered. You know, some people you'll notice it's like, why is this guy so hard to kill? It's just because they have like better spacing than you. Maybe they always have like a stick in reserve to make sure that they can't die and they can like outthink you in these little skirmishy fights. Maybe you just find that you're against somebody that's playing a slippery hero and you just simply can never kill them because they're always, you know, a couple steps ahead of you. They're anticipating the ganks. They're always showing up on the opposite side of the map from where you're trying to go kill them. Like these types of things will be pretty blatant, I think, as you play the game out more and more. As far as like if you just show up to a lane, you're like, is this guy good? Can I abuse them or not? That's a little bit tougher, but you can usually tell, I would say, within the first couple of creep waves whether they are controlling the tempo of the lane or you are, and it's going to be a lot more than just hero based. Like if they have a hero that should dump on you and they're not dumping on you, they're probably not a good player.
I have the answer. I have the one true answer. You can determine how good somebody is by how quickly they leave the fountain. That's how you can determine if somebody's good or not. In my opinion, you'll see pre-game if somebody's a good player or not, because good players will be, and this works at every level. I don't just mean divine players. Like when you get to divine, they'll do all the good stuff before matches start. Divine players won't do this shit. But if you watch a top 100 player, they're going to see that like a Slark is at the tier 2. So they'll go behind the tier 1 and they'll just say, this guy's not getting to his tier 1 without TPing. They'll cock block him out of lane. You'll see people trying to snipe couriers. You'll see people trying to de-ward using tower vision. You can basically see before the game starts what level of tricks people know. And I mean, if somebody's sitting in the base for 30 seconds or even 5 seconds, if somebody's not immediately out of fountain, they're probably not good, because 5 seconds to 10 seconds is enough of a difference that you can't get into a position to snipe courier. You can't get into a position to stop somebody from getting their quelling blade in lane. Like there are tricks that you can do in a game that require the 5 to 10 seconds. So if somebody is not leaving fountain in the 5 to 10 seconds, either means they've won AFK, which probably determines that they're not that good, because if you're going AFK, you don't take the game that seriously. So why would you expect to be good if you don't take the game that seriously? Or they don't know the good tricks that require those 5 to 10 seconds to do. And then, of course, because they don't know the tricks, and Dota's all about knowing things, they're not good by that definition. So that's what I would say. It's like a pretty good indicator.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes you'll get people, even like pro players on stream will go AFK and then they'll buy their items and then run out to lane. But very rarely,
it's like an exception. Yeah, in that situation, it's like that's not super common. People usually have a pretty good habit of getting out of base.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chai also asks, do I think Lotus Orb is an underrated item? I think it's underrated in pubs, but I think you can see in pro matches people like 4 rolls are rushing it in certain games. I think Lotus Orb is rated pretty highly, and I think it's really good. I think it just has not trickled down into pubs yet because people are bad, including 7K players. Like we're all bad.
Yeah, I don't know if it's over or underrated. I think it's a good item. I don't think it's like the best item in the game. I think it's a very useful item, but I wouldn't say it's underrated. I think it's like as if you had to rank the defensive items that you can go on a support hero or an offlaner, it's probably like 30%, 40% of games you probably want one as like a second or third item, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that pros value it a lot higher than pub players.
That's just in general. I think pros always value utility higher than the average pub player.
That's true. That's true. So I guess by definition, then the answer is almost yes for like the utility items.
It's true.
Just because pub players like that's not a desolator. That doesn't do damage. Jesus Christ, man! I played against a Mars the other day that went phase boots deso. No stick, no bottle, no soul ring, no Vlads, no Bassy, no blink, nothing like that. Just phase boots deso. And he was like a divine 3 or something queuing into a game. And I was just like, fuck, man, I can't believe I'm losing to a guy. And his team was like Zeus, Ultra Farmed Lifestealer, who already had a deso as well. And it's like he made the choice to go deso in a game where he needed no damage when they already had a desolator, and he fucking won. The amount of fights that they lost because he didn't have a blink, it's like we were actually coming back in this stomp of a game because they had no team fight, no catch. It's right. Like, dude, that's your job. Deso is not your job.
Yeah, dude. Right. I actually won a game the other day that we had no business winning because the enemy team, it was a pretty high rated game. I think it was like I think there's like a rank 200 on either side, and I was playing position 5 Zeus, and the other team had a Void who was Divine 3, and he went Mask of Madness. And
oh, that's cool.
And he was dying to our Drow every single fight because he would run in, chrono somebody, Mask of Madness, and Drow would 2-shot him. And I went back because one of the guys on the other team was streaming, and I went back and watched the game from his perspective or parts of it. And for like 20 straight minutes, he was just like, sell your fucking Mask of Madness. It's literally killing you and losing us the game. And the guy did, and bought a butterfly, and then he bought another Mask of Madness and lost the game after.
Oh my god, butterfly Void, man. Jesus. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. Sometimes, like, a lot of the times I'll look at like coaching students' replays, and I'll see their items, and I'll just be like, you know what? You could honestly have gone for a lot of stuff here, and it wouldn't really matter. It's like a lot of the time items lose you the game rather than like win you the game. It's like you go for an item. It's like, dude, there's so many other items you could have gotten, and this just was a useless waste of your gold, and that's why you lost. It's not like, dude, you should have got a blink. It's like, you shouldn't have got a deso. Like, right. You should have got something else instead of that. You shouldn't have rushed Assault Cuirass. You could go Glimmer. You could go Force. Like, it's usually the opposite.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of these items, tips for laning as an offlaner versus lifestealer. How are you meant to do anything to this hero? I mostly play Sand King and Centaur unless I have a bunch of Retaliate stacks. I feel at his mercy. Okay, so I have 2 possible answers for this. Answer number 1 is that there are quite a few heroes that you can pick to just like totally shit on lifestealer. If you get like Abaddon or Legion, the hero just can't do anything in fights because he uses his slow on somebody, and you purge it. You also do really well in lane against lifestealer. You could pick like Ursa, Monkey King. There's pretty hard lane counters.
Slardar.
But I would say the most Slardar, of course. Yeah, Slardar's the biggest counter. However, I would say the biggest problem with lifestealer is that no matter what he's up against, he will basically pressure the same amount. Like, the hero does not pressure at fucking all. He just doesn't get pressured. So you can pick really greedy offlane against him, like Lycan or something like that, and just completely decimate the game by having a hero that you otherwise wouldn't usually be able to pick against lifestealer. You know, you could like Weaver, you could Necrophos, like these heroes that you don't necessarily see in a lot of games. You could just go carry build, and they will never pressure you. You can just sit there and lane against them. So make sure to abuse the fact that this guy doesn't fucking do anything. You can cut waves against him. He can't do anything. He just sits there and is like, I'm going to lane no matter what. Cool. So will I.
Yeah, I think that the wording of that question was a little bit telling. It sounds like you're having trouble because like you're trading with the life stealer and he's out trading you because you're a strength core and you're just hitting him and he's hitting you back, which life stealer wins. But really the answer is just ignore that there's a life stealer in the lane. Basically, it's like he doesn't actually do anything unless you put yourself in a bad position.
There's a
So
lot of really greedy shit you can just
yeah,
get away with against that hero. He does almost nothing. You could like Clinks off lane.
yeah,
You could
seriously.
Slark off lane against Lifestealer and own him. You can Veno off lane. You can Visage. You can Viper.
You could
just,
play
like...
Invoker off lane and go Midas and have no problems against the
Yeah, definitely. It's just not a great hero for pressuring, but it doesn't get pressured. Okay, so let's see. Why is Ags on Gyro preferred over Moonshard? All right, let me look at the math on this one.
It's kind of an interesting question just because the consideration would be that Moonshard probably gets your attack rate to about the same as like an Ags would as a first or second item on the hero. But you also have to realize that you're sacrificing a huge amount of tankiness, some extra damage from the agility that you get from the stats, some mana pool. So Ags gives you a lot more than just an increase in your DPS from attack speed, basically.
My thought when Wink asked, he asked this specifically to me, but I think we started talking about some other shit. And my thought when he first asked this to me, I was thinking like the Ags, it hits while you're stunned, it hits while you're disabled, like it just constantly goes.
Yeah.
And I believe that the Ags gives you a farther attack range. Like I think it's longer than your regular attack, if I recall correctly. One sec, let me look. Ags, I can look this up. Side Gunner, so it's within a 600 radius every 2 seconds.
What's your regular? I think your regular attack range is like at least that long.
His attack range is 365.
Really, it's that short?
Yeah, it's pretty short.
Wow. Okay. Yes.
So the Ags gives you more range. If you're stunned, it can work as well, and also it's. I mean, I guess like just the fact that you can like hit and then hit immediately after. It's like a lot of burst.
Yeah.
Like possible burst. It's the small things. It's the small things. For me, it's like I really like that. If my Gyro is stunned, then he still keeps hitting. He still keeps doing damage. Like a lot of the time, like you get a Satanic with the Aghanim Scepter. One single hit of that Side Gunner is enough to give Gyro 40% HP. Right? So you pop a Satanic, he gets stunned, he side guns, it can save him. I think that's pretty important, especially because like everybody's going Satanic as second, third item on this hero. Well, third item.
Right. Yeah.
Or fourth item. But everybody's getting a Satanic on Gyro at some point. So unless you have anything to add, Donnie, any?
No, I think it's more along the lines of like you can get sort of the same amount of utility out of a Moonshard and an Ags, but Ags also has like 5 or 6 extra benefits that Moonshard just doesn't have.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Average Peen says Eddie Mercury is on my D2L team and he could use some encouragement. He's an amazing pause 5 and we don't want him to leave. I agree. I think Eddie Mercury is an amazing position 5. His early game is fucking incredible. Let me tell you, absolutely incredible. And I mean, that's what you want out of a pause 5, I think. Once again, I think that Eddie Mercury's biggest issue is confidence.
Yeah.
And wanting to play the game and not. It's basically confidence. It's basically just confidence in all psychological. And I would what's the word? I would really encourage Eddie Mercury to, instead of focusing necessarily on like replays and all stuff like that, get your head into a good space if you're going to be playing in these tournaments. Like really focus on being healthy. Like, you know, go to the gym, make sure you're not hungry or you're not tired when you're playing. Make sure that you actually want to play the game, so that way
have some fun.
Have fun with it. Have fun with it. Exactly.
For sure.
Like I think Eddie's very similar to me, where if I'm tired or hungry or just losing confidence, if I didn't sleep for like a good amount, I can just feed, and I can't figure out how to win the game quick enough that I'll just feed another death, and then I have to think about something new, and I'll feed another death, because like in Dota, it's
Yeah, totally.
it's like driving, man. If you're tired and driving and you lose focus for a second, you could fucking crash, and there's no coming back for that. You know, it's like from that you're like a vegetable for the rest of your life. But in Dota, luckily, it's for a game. You know, but if you're let me tell you, man. Let me tell you, I've been
It
looking
is
up some stuff on
it,
sleeping,
yeah,
and
sleeping is nuts, man. Sleeping is super overpowered.
apparently, if you stay up for longer than 24 hours, just 24 hours, which is not that long, I'm sure all of us have done it at least once. You will. It's equivalent to being intoxicated while you're driving. It's you're over the limit.
Yeah,
Like
it's
legitimately.
it's really bad.
If you get less than 6 hours of sleep, they say that you take like 2 to 3 second micro sleeps while you're driving. Less than 6 hours. That's not a lot.
Yeah.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah. It's really not good. Lack of sleep is like one of the worst things that you can have.
So yeah, just focus on your mental health. You don't need the mechanics. You've already got all of that. Just focus on being you, and then you'll be fine.
Yep.
Okay. Wink says, as a position 1, is it better to wait for the 10-minute mark to rotate to the offlane to push towers with siege, or rotate as soon as you hit your power spike around 8 minutes? Earlier the better. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I mean,
just as early as possible.
Don't rotate as like a void with 1 point in time walk, 2 points in bash, and 1 point in time dilation or something like that. You know, wait till you have your power spike, but once you hit it, feel free to get out of your lane. Like, there's no reason to really stay there. You can always make the map look better for you by being the first person to move.
Yep, definitely. I would say as early as possible without just ruining the game. Like if you like if you rotate, like Donnie said, with those really shitty levels in the ability, and then you kill somebody and you can't even lane there solo, and your offlaner can't even go and lane against the guy that you were originally up against. Like, once you make a rotation, there's going to be a switch on the map. You probably change places with your offlaner,
Yep.
or you need to go jungle in the area while your offlaner takes the lane. And it's like, if you rotate and you can't jungle because you're not high enough level, then that's not a good rotation. Or if you rotate and you can't stay in the lane, that's not a good rotation. So as early as it's a good rotation, you should go. There's no like minute mark that you should look for, but it's usually between 5 to 10 minutes. Like 10 minutes is pushing it. And the reason that you should rotate at 10 minutes or later is only if like current lane setup is already winning you the game, and you have absolutely no reason to want to push towers. You have absolutely no reason to break down the laning stage, which I would say happens less frequently.
Yeah.
So.
And yeah, exactly. I was gonna kind of go on a tangent, like
Thank you,
you know, sometimes like if you're in an unplayable lane, it's even okay to leave and just go jungle at like level 2 or 3. If you legitimately can't lane, just let your support get solo experience, and then you go get jungle experience.
Get your team more gold per minute, then do it. That's how you make rotations. Is it going to make your team better? Are you going to be better off? If you have to go as an anti-mage and support your offlaner to make the map look better, you should do it. In fact, I've literally seen in competitive and high-rated games, I've seen core players go and support a lane because they know that if they do anything else, it's not going to be good for them.
Yep.
In particular, like that happens when the enemy team gets good lanes. It's like they get some Batrider versus Timber or some counter matchup like that. They just say, you know what, I'm just going to support on Timber. I've literally seen people jungle on Timber, so that way they don't just end up being against like a really bad lane matchup. And it fucks the enemy team because they have to sit the bat in the mid lane doing nothing because they want to get the right lane. Anyway, moving on.
Yep.
Loyval says, I'm having trouble giving pressure to the enemy safe laner as an offlaner. Maybe feeling too scared. Feels like I'm just happy to get an okay game myself while giving the enemy safe lane core free farm. How do I train myself to be more aggressive in the first 5 to 10 minutes? Once again, this kind of goes back to like the lane rotations thing and the offlaning versus lifestealer. You have to look at what is realistic in the game. If you have a lane that is supposed to pressure, then you pressure it using the most consistent, effective thing possible. I've seen a lot of people overplay their hand where you know that you're supposed to win a matchup, so you dive and then you die, or you take too much damage, you have to use a salve early and you fuck up your whole lane. Just sit there, pull when you need to pull, harass whenever there's no last hits to get, stand and make sure you're standing on the right side of the lane. There aren't that many variables that you need to figure out. All you need to do is make sure that if you are finding that you are in a matchup where you should pressure, look at the replay and figure out why you didn't pressure. It's usually going to be something as simple as, I needed to stand towards this side of the lane so that way they couldn't come up and last hit. I needed to go help my support pull. I needed to go stop the enemy support from pulling. I needed to block this camp. It's going to be something like that. It's not going to be, I should have epically hit more last hits, because if you're in a winning matchup, you could be shitty at last hits and you're just going to, like, the matchup's winning, right? So it's like there should be something that you're doing to secure yourself those last hits. If you fuck up the timing, you fuck up the timing. I mean, that's just something that you learn by practicing it over and over again. But everybody gets good at that so quickly. We're all human, right? Like that's not a hard thing for us to learn. We're all very, very good at making something like that like an automatic process for our bodies. It's what we've done for thousands of fucking years. So I would say, yeah, make sure to just watch your replays and focus on the matchups.
Yeah, I think that basically what you were covering there is just something that we've talked about so many times, which is a lot of it comes down to just hours played, right? You know, if you're constantly switching up your heroes, then sure, you're probably not going to know when you should be pressuring. Like exactly what you're saying, Jenkins. If you're in a winning matchup, then you're just kind of win the matchup by playing the lane normally. But how do you know exactly if you're in a winning matchup? You need to play that matchup over and over and over again. And play aggressively. Like we've said this many times before as well. Push your limits. Play aggressively until it becomes just straight up feeding, and then scale it back to like a reasonable amount.
Yeah, agreed. Cheeky says, "Hey friendos, I've been losing a lot of games lately while knowing how to play the map correctly, but I just can't coordinate pub games to ward, camp, farm the enemy jungle, roche pit, etc., etc. But I find people just blatantly dire feed in a part of the map that they shouldn't be. If they just listen to calls, we lose a fight because our carry is farming our triangle. We just wiped 3 heroes or some shit. Then the snowball comes from that. We lose while I'm just crying my room with minus 25 after minus 25, praying for a decent team." Thoughts?
That's your problem.
Crying?
No, your main problem is that you're expecting a good team game of Dota in solo queue pubs. Not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Consistently, at least. You might get 1 out of every 100 games where your team actually listens to your calls every single time and follows and plays together. So you're looking at the game completely wrong, in my opinion, if you are blaming people not listening to your calls or like not playing the map correctly. That's your job. Play the map correctly yourself. Make stuff happen yourself, and your team
what I always play better. Sorry, my bad. What I always tell the like coaching students when they complain about this sort of thing is that at least my rule of thumb, and I think this is a pretty decent. I mean, I think there's a pretty decent flow to follow. Let's say you just trust your team to do the right things, and you just do the right things. And whenever they prove to you that they can't do that thing, then you play around that. You just say, okay, this guy's going to go be doing this. So how can we play the map to enable him to do this? All right, let's try this. Okay, that didn't work because he's doing this. Okay, how do we play the map to make that good? And that's how you need to figure out the game. And if you get to the point where there's literally nothing that you can do, then that's just going to be a loss. But all you need to do is get to that 51% win rate. You don't need anything higher than that to gain MMR. You just 51% win rate, play enough games over the course of a couple of months, and you're going to go up 500 MMR, which is like an entire badge. Yep. So that's all you have to do. I would say you want to trust your team. So like, let's say the example recently from coaching was I was coaching somebody who's playing Jakiro, and they had OD. They had like 3 other heroes that could set up for the Jakiro spells. They had tons of stunners, and he went for a Yules. And I said, this is useless. You should have a Glimmer Cape. You should have a Force Staff, because you have other heroes to set up for your abilities. And where I would see this is acceptable is if you've tried to play with your team and they have proven to you that they're incapable of playing with you on many levels, because sometimes people fuck up. You want to give them the benefit of the doubt and you keep trying within reason. But if they prove that they can't and you need to play with that Yule Scepter, then play with the Yule Scepter. But in that particular game, the OD that was on his team had proven that he is very competent and that he was able to be fought around. The other hero, I think, was like a Slark carry. Complete fucking idiot. Just get feeding all the time. And so he couldn't play around the Slark. So he's playing to the Slark and not to the OD. And that's the mistake, is that good players will realize that they need to play towards that OD. They will make those adjustments, because that's all this game is it's literally just like taking these scenarios and treating them like they're individual puzzles that you need to figure out.
Yep.
Lanes, bounty runes, playing with certain teammates, things like that. And I think if you think about it That way, it makes it a lot easier to just play with idiots, and you won't feel as bad when you lose either, because it's like, okay, this is one of those games where I couldn't do enough to win the game, but I tried as much as I could. And from what I'm hearing here is that you didn't go down like the list of things that you could try. You just kind of stuck with the right thing to do when it was the wrong thing to do because you weren't adjusting for your teammates.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like some of the best examples are when your team needs a specific item to win fights. Like, I mean, dust, for example, right? We can take dust as an example, but let's say your team absolutely has to have a hex to be able to win a fight. You have to jump a specific hero and hex them and kill them. And you're playing anti-mage. Sure, you should probably go for like Abyssal Blade, Manta, Butterfly, Scotty, these kinds of stuff. But what is stopping you from buying a hex to win a fight that's going to win you the game? Nothing. You can buy the hex. It's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with having the correct item to win the game at the right time. So, ideally, you should say, hey, we need a hex to win this game. And if nobody buys it after a couple of team fights, just do it. Like, do that job. Add that, play around that, add that as part of the jobs that you have to do. And you're going to find that, like Jenkins said, either you win or lose based off of that.
Unwinnable games.
Yeah.
You'll win games that feel unwinnable. And that's the 1% that you need.
Yeah, so, I was playing a game recently where the enemy team had a Tinker, and they also had like a Pudge and some other super tanky, like a Wraith King, like two super tanky cores. And I was like, hey guys, we have to kill the Tinker every fight. And my cores would just go on the Pudge and the Wraith King over and over and over and over again. And the Tinker's just in the back line, just missling away. I'm a position 5 Shadow Shaman with like brown boots and like a bracer. And I think I was like halfway to some other item, and I sold all of my shit and I bought a Blink Dagger, and I just waited and Blink hexed the Tinker every single fight. And we still lost because I was literally just a no item Blink Dagger Shadow Shaman, but at least I was getting the Tinker, who was the only reason that we were losing the fight. And then my team wasn't following up, so we lost, but what can you do at that point?
You can't feel bad with losses that you just tried everything that you possibly could.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Dota's just a game that you're going to lose around 50% of your matches. You go to anybody's profile, they're going to lose 50%. So it's really bad to let the losses get to you. Once again, going back to the Eddie Mercury thing, like I think a lot of us are impacted by a lot of us could focus more on like the psychological aspects of just being in the right mentality after losing a few games, and that would gain us a lot of MMR. Anyway, a bug says, what is the best way to use my time as a ganking position for like Spirit Breaker in the mid game if nobody on my team can effectively kill combo with me? Usually I just sit where I think the enemy is going to go and absorb ganks. That's really good. I was actually going to say that. Yeah. So my cores can keep farming. That's fucking really good, dude. That is really good. I would say that's amazing to do. But sometimes I feel useless while my position 5 is able to clear waves of spells. My team sometimes flames me for taking lane farm from the carry. In other words, when I'm playing heroes like Spirit Breaker, Skywrath, or Bounty Hunter who can't clear waves quickly. This is just the nature
I
of
think they should
heroes.
flame you, actually, if you are taking lane farm. Because if you're on one of those heroes, your whole like impact in the mid game is not being seen. So you should sit near a lane and just let your 5 or your carry or your mid or your offlane push the lane and just sit there absorbing the experience but not actually showing you.
Yeah, I think those heroes just aren't reasonable to try to get any farm with other than through kills, because they farm so unbelievably slowly that if you are farming versus heroes that do farm quickly, like Alina or something, you will just get out farmed and lose. This is something that I realized with Abaddon the other day, is that the hero doesn't farm very quickly. There's this period where you want to stand in front of towers and like you can farm lane then because you're farming just as fast as other heroes and you can defend towers that way. But if you're doing that for like 20 minutes after that, most heroes farm faster than an Abaddon. So if you're just farming versus their farm, you're going to lose. And you obviously don't want to play to lose the game just because it's getting you farm. So I would say you're absolutely on the right track when it comes to absorbing ganks so your cores can keep farming.
Yep.
You want to play aggressive. You want to play standing on hills. You want to run up hills first so your cores can walk up behind you and farm. You want to stand near lanes so that way, scouting shrines maybe, so that way like you can charge whoever or go on whoever. If your cores get gone on, like you need to be the hero that enables farm. Unfortunately, you aren't a hero that farms, but you enable farm by doing the right thing. And if your position 5 gets more farm than you, then that's fine. Just buy a shitload of bracers, become the 5 yourself.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. Sometimes the game needs to work like that.
One little trick I do want to say is that if you're playing one of these heroes that just doesn't clear creep waves very quickly, you can still push waves by just killing the range creep every single time. Because
I mean, on Spear Breaker, feel free to just charge through the wave.
Yeah, charge through the wave, Arcane Bolt the range creep, Shuriken the range creep, and then disappear off the map. Like, because your wave will push, and then you can just kind of like sit there and be invisible or in the trees as the wave pushes, because there's no range creep, and your wave does have a range creep, and then you'll slowly advance the map control with your creeps without having to just sit there and hit.
Only if your cores aren't in a position to
yes,
do that, to take that farm, because
yes,
heroes that can clear waves should just be clearing waves. Like if you're Phoenix or Alina, I don't care what you're. The reason that hero has strength is because of the ability to clear waves. That's part of it.
Yeah.
So you need to abuse your strengths. Otherwise, you just want to pick heroes. But these heroes are viable. The heroes you listed are. It's just you need to play. You need to make your impact. Once again, I guess final note is just like I've tried to play these heroes where they're like farm. It feels really fucking bad to farm versus farmers.
Yeah,
it feels really bad.
Yeah.
And you'd much rather just be feeding and make yourself a position 5 and feeding to give vision and stuff like that than to farm. Yeah. Because it's way more useful. Same thing with like, Pudge. Like you want to fight. So you pick the hero, you fight, even if it seems kind of bad, you fight, because otherwise what's the point of picking the hero? Unless you're waiting to fight later. But anyway, that gets into a whole other topic. All right, that's it for questions, Donnie. Do you want to do a speed round from chat?
Yeah, chat, put your questions in real quick, short ones. We'll give you a couple word answers on each one for the next 5 minutes, and then we'll call the episode. But as always, thanks to our patrons for the questions and their support.
Patreon.com/Dota Alchemy.
Yeah.
Hit us up.
Yeah.
If you want some
support the boys, get your questions answered every single week. Maybe grab some of this sweet alchemy merch that we're rocking here if you want to support the stream too.
How was your day? My day was good. I drove to Toronto, picked up my mother-in-law. She is drinking tea with my girlfriend right now, I believe, just outside this room. I had some tea as well. And that leads to the next question. What kind of tea am I drinking? I'm drinking... What are you drinking? Are you drinking tea?
Yeah, I got some like white jasmine tea, I think.
Oh my god, you're always drinking the white teas.
I think.
What kind of shampoo does Jenkins use? I use Pantene. Why do you think people buy Monkey King Bar and Faces Void so early? Even no sources of evasion. I think because his time lock allows him to like hit twice. So these like proc abilities are really good on him.
I think it's pretty terrible though. You'd rather just have a Maelstrom most of the time.
Yeah, you should definitely go Maelstrom first. Is Battle Fear still viable on item on heroes that aren't AM?
Situationally, yeah, I think situationally it's still good on like PA. Could be okay on a hero like Juggernaut against Phantom Lancer or something like that.
When I get Lotus Orb on a 5 late, should I wait to cast it to debuff or preemptively? Depends on what's on the enemy team. DG, you can put it preemptively. Like if you're in a situation where you know you're baiting somebody, preemptively is fine. But sometimes there's games where you just need to cast it after the fact just to purge something.
Yep.
And it's usually pretty obvious. Hey guys, what other offlaners should I play that aren't sustainers like Abba, Legion, or Omni? Earthshaker. Opinion on support Puck. Pretty good.
Leshrac maybe as well.
Yeah, the hero's just good.
I'm a Luna 5. I build my Luna as a 4 via auras. I have success, but is it truly any good? If it's winning you games, just do it until it doesn't. Why not?
Is Zeus 5 a meme? Your replay looked selective. Yeah, Donnie.
No. I've won 5 straight games with that, and I would say, I think, what is my win rate? Anyway, no, it's not a meme. I've been winning with it basically every game that I pick it.
Why is Doom fallen in the meta now?
People forgot about it. He's slow.
I think he's pretty slow. Needs items. He can't get them. Needs desperately, and Doom cooldown really long.
Yeah. I think it's probably underrated though, because OD is super popular, Faceless Void super popular. Like, there's definitely very good Doom targets.
Yeah, it's probably underrated, but I think
there's
needs
better heroes for sure.
I think it needs some buffs still. I do think it needs some buffs. Let's see.
Nyx Assassin in this patch.
Good against OD.
He's good against OD. Probably slightly underrated, but it kind of feels like he's super feast or famine. Either you have a good game or you just do absolutely
Really
nothing.
good if you can abuse his like scouting.
Yeah.
If you're some like invoker or hero that just needs somebody to run in first and scout, it's really cool. Elevate. I'm curious if your rank / metal. What's your metal elevated?
It's Divine 4 and 5.3k MMR right now.
Nice, nice. When's the collab between Speed and Jenkins, or us and Speed? We probably should get on that. I've been Midas came back and kind of been didn't really catch up on that, but we probably should.
At some point.
It's not like we have a Discord for it. Actually, we have a Discord with.
Oh yeah, we actually do, right? We were gonna do. Yeah.
Bowie, Henry, Speed, and us, and we were like, all right, let's.
We're gonna make like a stream team or something like that.
yeah, let's see. How skilled are people who are on top 100 with Dota buff heroes? Not really skilled.
Yeah, it almost has nothing to do with their actual skill level, unless they have like pro as the thing that's next to their name. If they're like diamond or whatever, you have no idea. They could have literally just played 3,000 games on the hero.
Hey guys, I play 15 hours every day and still losing MMR because I play alone. What can I do? Number one, making excuses that it's because you're playing alone. That's gonna, like, if you already have a reason for it, then that's a problem in itself, in my opinion. With respect, I say that as somebody who also makes the same sort of excuses, and then you gotta snap yourself out of it. You always gotta look to blame yourself, or you're not gonna improve. Then with that being said, 15 hours a day is way too long. Get some sleep, buddy.
Yeah.
Eat some food. Probably play less and just think about the game more if you really want to get.
Play a third of the amount of Dota that you're playing, and you'll probably win MMR.
I was pretty happy to notice I was on top 100 in my most bad.
Sorry.
Indeed. Indeed. I am. I mean, you could possibly be high immortal and also top 100.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't mean it's an indicator. I mean, you're just good and it's not an. You can still be good and have it not be an indicator. It just means almost nothing. There's like tons of like. Thoughts on what?
Thoughts on getting W and Witch Doctor first for trading. Why not just get Maledict and trade with that?
I don't know. People used to do the W. I think Maledict's probably people used to do.
Sure.
Hey Jenkins, does Pudge want to farm or fight? Pudge wants to fight because you want flush heap stacks, but he's actually pretty decent at farming, which is why people play him as a pause one sometimes. The Rot is actually pretty decent at farming, but he would ideally like to just get those flush heap stacks. What do I think of Sumia? Is he the best invoker in the world? I've seen zero content from him, to be completely frank, but I hear he's really good.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to judge. I mean, I would say that Miracle is the best invoker in the world, but he doesn't play it anymore.
What's Sumia's rank? What's his MMR?
I don't know. I think he's like 6k or something like that.
Probably pretty good. That's pretty high.
Yeah.
But I'd say like generally most 7k invokers are going to be better than 6k invoker. Like not mechanically, but you're going to be fighting in the right areas. You're going to be like doing the right things on the map, which is way more important than mechanics on a hero.
Yeah. Mechanically, he might be the best. Who knows? In terms of like spell selection, that kind of stuff. But when it comes to actually playing the game of Dota, which is what actually determines who's the best at a hero.
Which is exactly why the top 100s on Dota buff is meaningless, because it puts like legends and divines and stuff up there with like crit and Arteezy, and it's like, well, no fucking way, man.
Yeah.
You can't just compare with like TI winners because of some pub stats.
All right, I think that's probably good. Thoughts? Any final thoughts for everybody?
I love my YouTube subscribers. I love my patrons, especially. I love you, Donnie.
Thanks, man. It's mutual. All right, we'll see you guys later.